It's time to talk about robotics. Hey, I'm Rob. That's Galen. He is actually a robot. We've never told you that before, but the jig is up. He's a hardworking robot. Which one of you guys can best do the robot? That's my question.
I give it a go, but
You
I
give it
was
a
going to say
go.
we should all do the robot dance.
Michelle's upstairs. Chris is in the far corner. I'm pretty sure Chris does a pretty good job at it. We're talking about robotics here on the Equity.Guru Investor
You got to be
Roundtable.
careful when you say do the robot. Like Elon Musk thinks that's something completely different from what you think.
Exactly. It means dating Amber Heard.
It takes you into a whole new porn search category that you don't want to dive into.
Amber Heard, is that the whole Johnny Depp thing?
Yeah, but I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to
Yeah,
go to the
don't
fact
go
that she
there.
was with Elon Musk.
Come on, that's news.
The douche dropper.
We're focusing on three companies: Guardforce AI, which is on the NASDAQ at GFAI. That's out of Singapore under Li Wang. Myomo is in Boston on the New York Stock Exchange, Paul Gadanis, and it's MYO as a symbol. And then back to the NASDAQ for Harel Gadat's firm. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's the same spelling as the actress who played Wonder Woman. MBOT, sorry, Hingham, Mass. Microbot Medical, that's the third company, and Michelle will tell you the basics.
For sure, Rob. So let's start with Guardforce, and this is a company, as you mentioned, based in Singapore. Seems to have an Asian focus, and that's sort of what I think about when I think of robots, is the stuff going on in Asia. They seem to be a bit ahead in that aspect there. And again, this is a company recently listed. They do deal with integrated security solutions and logistics, but they also have this robots as a service product line as well for their clients. You have your spray robot, your concierge robot, and your delivery robot, things that, you I guess they are now coming out. I've seen a delivery robot here in Port Coquitlam. That's a company that deals with this kind of stuff. Myomo is, as Galen sort of earlier mentioned, one of those exoskeleton type, companies where they have a powered orthosis brace to basically help you regain function in your arms and hands that have been, paralyzed by stroke and other various issues. And I could show you some images here. You can see people wearing those products and using it to, get back to playing guitars and doing everyday normal things again. And then finally, Microbot.
Wait a second. Do they give you guitar hands?
Yeah,
I saw in the presentation someone playing the guitar.
they did. It's just the strumming hand. It's not the
There we go.
fingering
If
hand.
it was a guitar extension,
You see,
so
that would
it's
be
just
cool.
constantly with you. You can just be like, at a moment's notice,
It'd be the life of the
serenade
party.
the girls under the tree in the back of the college party.
Yeah.
All right, I digress.
And then finally, Microbot Medical, and they deal with robot-assisted surgeries. And I'm just trying to find that product here because they have the first, is it endovascular? I believe that's the term. Endovascular technology here. Yes, here it is. The world's first fully disposable endovascular robot. So again, a lot of people make those connections with robots and medicine, and this is a company that is leading that side.
Looked like a video game controller, basically, is what that looked like. Chris, yes, you get to go next and talk about robots.
So back in the day when cannabis was a hot ticket, there was a company that I will not name because I don't really need to, that was touting that they had the technology to create a cannabis breath analyzer, right? So you could get pulled over by the cops, and the cops could tell if you had some weed. And funny thing that happened was that these guys sent me some images to go with the story that I was writing, and the images, a couple of them seemed to indicate that there wasn't actually anything inside the box. And when I pointed it out to them and said, is this a mistake? They got all very like, oh my God, no, you weren't supposed to see that. That's just a preliminary design. So when it comes to robot companies, AI companies, my first thought is always, is this a pretty cover or is there something actually in it? Are there things going on that generate revenue, or is this an idea somewhere that, one day maybe we can build wings on our backs, and hey, here's a $20 million private placement to get there. So I think the companies here that actually do have revenue that are starting to get through the bring your tech to market side of things are the only ones that I really want to take seriously, because everything else is just so up in the sky, especially when you're dealing with medical stuff. You've got to get all of that looked over by the feds, and the feds will take years to do it, even more years to approve it if it's not been done before. And there's got to be some real significance to the product for them to fast track things. So if I look at the market caps of these companies, they indicate to me that they're all either early on in that revenue stage and the jury is still out as to whether it's going to kick, or they're not yet at that revenue stage and the jury's still out as to whether they'll get there. Obviously, AI is interesting, but another thing that pisses me off is when every company out there that has a website that, pretends to talk to you for customer service, suddenly they're all like, oh, we're right into artificial intelligence. It's like, no, man, you got a WordPress website. It's not the same thing as AI. So these guys, when you're actually in robotics and you have actual robotic products that people can see, that is, to me, a big step up to step 2. And the market is step 3. So these companies, they're maybe a little bit early. They're into the step 2, some of them, but none of these jump off the shelf at me and say, I must invest in this, Elon Musk's sexual desires managed to get Tesla investors jumping on him.
That was a perfect transition to Elon Musk's president of his fan club, actually, Galen, who
inaugural member, right?
who needs a concierge robot, by the way.
Give him a minute to warm up.
The world would be a better place once that guy's arrested. All right. Now, let's get back to robotics here, and not that ridiculous fucking dance piece that Musk did to distract his shareholders from the fact.
Show me some real robots, Galen.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I like the idea of what is coming on here. Robotics, probably its best application is for the medical industry.
Or BattleBots.
We won't necessarily have anything in terms of any ambulatory or locomotive robotics. Nothing's going to be digging ditches and replacing you physically for a little time yet, at least probably 30 years, I'm guessing. But robots assisting in surgeries is a wonderful thing. The human hand is only so steady, and it deteriorates over time. And the exactness of a robotic assistance, especially with what Microbot has to offer, allows for the surgeon to get in there and not have to worry about that twitch causing some nasty
anything in the box.
Exactly.
I want to see what's in the box.
Now, as Chris said, it's not necessarily vaporware at this point in time, but this is purely in the design stage for Microbot. They're pushing forward, and this is an idea on a drawing board. The other company, Myomo, there we go, I can remember. It's a little further on down the road, but very much in the preclinical stages. They do have people using their exoskeletons, and I understand the importance of being able to regain the use of your limbs again. I personally would want to use it so I could crush things and be super. But exactly. But that's just me. So I like what they're doing, but again, in early stages, they have great backing because they're working with the Harvard Medical School and also MIT. So it's looking like on the intellectual side, they've got the backing necessary to carry this through. But as Chris mentioned, the regulatory process is quite difficult and may never come to fruition. You don't know. The furthest along would be Guardforce, but for me, it seems like this company is more like a grab bag of offerings. They started off as SecureCore in Thailand over payments. That's where they started. And then they just expanded their services ever since then. And it seems to me right now that they're kind of just sort of playing the field. Sure, they have these robots as a service, and you've got these little towers of shelves that zip around automatically and pass you your food, but don't necessarily pass it to you. They just bring it to your table. So it's not necessarily a huge advance. And for me, at this point in time, that kind of a service is more luxury-oriented. and kind of ridiculous in its application. I'm sorry, but I mean, that's fine. You got to start somewhere. So I'm not necessarily all that keen to sort of throw all my money down on Guardforce either. This is a wait and see for me. I think I think robotics will come to its fruition in the next 30 years in terms of usefulness. But right now we're very much in the discovery phase. Yes.
Say labor costs are going high, right? With inflation and stuff. Do you think some companies, some corporations might say, hey, instead of paying people, let's just
they already have robots on the assembly line anyway. It's already being applied, right? And
with autonomous vehicles, becoming less deathly, it will be relatively soon before we realize that the real target market for those isn't cars. It is personal assistance.
Everything else.
Go down the corner and go to 7-Eleven and bring back bread and milk.
Personally, I don't think the autonomous driving is actually that close. We're probably another 30 years away from that.
I mean, it's there. It's just going to kill you sometimes.
It's not. Have you seen those videos for a Tesla? There's one in China where the car hit the person and then ran right over them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you had it coming.
Yeah, I guess so. Said something wrong about digital technology, I guess.
That's his road rage mode.
Pissed off the robot.
All right, Galen, for a person who I offered a concierge robot to, you're awfully violent. Vishal, give us the charts.
Yep. So, a very quick rundown here on the charts. Again,
rundown is right.
Yeah, exactly. So we're recording this with a lot of, with markets are dropping and they're beginning to bottom. So perhaps some of these, I guess you could say they're more growth-oriented stocks, right? Because some of the technology is not just there yet, still very early stage. And, with tech stocks falling, some of these fell with them. Guardforce here, once again, was recently listed in 2021, September of 2021. And we're quite close to the previous lows here. The lows come in around 33 cents, but there seems to be a bit of a head and shoulder type pattern here developing. Can't say anything about it just yet, but perhaps we are finding a bottom for Guardforce there. Myomo, had quite the drop after earnings, actually, which came out in March. So not a good earnings report there, and the stock has just been drifting slowly. Not a good 2022 for Myomo here, but potentially we're going to find a bottom at $2, which we did bounce above. So keep an eye out on that $2 zone. And then finally, Microbot. And this one actually is a bit ahead in terms of the technicals. It did already test a major support level around that $5 zone. You can see here there's about 2 weeks of price action just ranging between $4.70 and $5. And we actually had a big day on the 27th of May with an 11% green day. So it looks like you have a breakout on Microbot, but there is still some resistance here around $6 and $6.50. But as everyone mentioned that these are still very early stage plays. So I guess you could say they're still a bit speculative. Although Guardforce, as Galen did mention, I did take a look at their numbers, and you're seeing some contracts here where there's $19 million in profits for 3 years, acquiring companies for $30 million. So it seems like it's more, obviously an Asia play, and it's not just robotics. So there might be something there in Guardforce.
So there you go. Guardforce GFAI on the NASDAQ out of Singapore, Microbot Medical MBOT on the NASDAQ, and Myomo on the New York Stock Exchange at MYO.
Can I just point out that whoever created the ticker symbol for Guardforce, GFAI,
right?
I mean, sounds like GFYS AI.
FY, yeah.
Right?
Go.
They're
incorporating their initials and the AI thing.
They seem like they have a negative attitude towards AI, as if they're saying "Go FAI."
Oh, I got you.
That's what I'm saying.
By the way, the quote of the day goes to Chris Perry for, "Wait a minute, do they give you guitar hands?" And
if someone puts out a shell company that gives people missing hands, like various implements that they can use, I'm all in on that. If I was missing a hand, but I could put a hook on it, or a rocket launcher, or Freddy Krueger knives.
Yep. Or what's his name? What was Johnny Depp's character?
Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
That'd be
a
cool.
little shaver.
Well, by having the quote of the day, you get to go first with $7,500.
I'm not putting anything on these things.
Zero. Galen?
Robotics is good. Robotics is necessary, but this isn't it. There's nothing here that's going to make billions, and they're all early stage, and the stock chart is showing you what the markets think.
All right. Galen?
Robotics in and of itself, along with the AI that sort of backs it, is in its infant stages. We won't see anything groundbreaking until probably 30 years from now. The one that has the closest sort of application, as far as I'm concerned, is actually Microbot. Sorry, Myomo. I apologize.
Myomo, yeah.
That is interesting and has some sort of near-term application. How they do the signal processing and that kind of stuff is a whole new thing. So that's probably going to be their biggest challenge. But I'm not putting any money down. I want to see where it goes.
You're like, when you say Myomo, you're supposed to give a Japanese schoolgirl giggle afterwards. Myomo.
Plus, you have
like big eyes.
You have 4 major technological world events happening in 30 years. That's
I mean, everything's coming down in 30 years.
Everything's happening in 30 years, Galen.
Plan your exit for 2051.
Right.
Your fallback.
The world's probably going to end before then, 2050, but whatever.
Good. Michelle, what are you doing? Any money?
Not right now, although I am a bit intrigued with Guardforce. I have to say, I'll have to, just look at some more of those numbers there, because they just released that data print with the Thailand deal today. I think the technicals are basically meet some of my criteria for reversal. It hasn't triggered just yet. But yeah, everything else very early stage. Myomo seems to have a niche, which is interesting. With Microbot, I think there's going to be a lot of sort of these medical robotic plays out there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they differentiate. But keeping a keen eye here on Guardforce, but I'm not dropping anything just yet.
All right. Well, let's get Rhonda the robot into the office to make us some drinks while we tell folks to please do research and study. And also, Kieran has an article up on these companies on the website, so you can check that out today. Very good stuff. Very diligent writer. But do your homework, and we cannot guarantee that anything that we've told you will come true, because it's just the nature of the business. So please do your research. Nothing is guaranteed. The same goes for past performance with these companies. That's all for robotics today. We already gave you the symbols, and we move along. That's right, in our natural world on the Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.
I think the people behind